So we let him run. Because when we go out at night, Sydney will sometimes video and everybody's asleep on their beds. Like it's perfectly quiet. And we're like, night, everybody. Because they're worn out. They've had a great day. They've had their food and their medications. And we like turn the light off.
Leo here, your host of the Building Bellingham podcast. And thanks for stopping by the studio. Pour a glass of whiskey or local beer. Take a sip. Kick those feet up. We're going to dive into what it means to be a business owner, what it means to be a member of this Bellingham and Whatcom County community, and what it means to find peace and balance while running a badass, high-octane, local, iconic business. Let's jump in. Charmae, welcome to the studio. I have been talking with Tiffany about this for a long time and didn't realize that you knew each other. And I've been a consumer of your business. I bring my dog Walt to Rover. We have been coming there for the entire time he's been alive and realized how important it was. We're like, oh, we got a dog. This is going to be great. And then we're like, we have jobs.
Yeah.
Where does he go? He can't just sit at home all day.
Yes.
He's a dog and he's a springer. So he's
busy.
10,000 miles of hiking every day. So you guys had come super highly recommended to us and it's been awesome. It's just been plug and play since then. And so really appreciate what you do. Always have been, my business mind has been incredibly fascinated by how it started.
Yeah.
And how the economics of it and how it stays alive and why there isn't more competition. Tell us the story. How did this idea start?
So we were living in Eastern Washington. We had a passel of little kids, right? We had a dog, but my family all lived here, our families. So now we have to leave this dog. What are we going to do? We don't want to burden someone with our dog for 7 days while we're on a vacation. So we start looking into kennels in Tri-Cities area. And we find this beautiful kennel out in the country just out past us. So we go there to drop off our dog. I've made all the arrangements and stuff. It's our little bulldog. And I am just gobsmacked. It's this beautiful setting. It's a surgeon who was retired. He had built this beautiful building. The floors are heated, like everything's perfect. And I'm like, we need to do this. This is like a modern day dairy farm. And Ken grew up on a dairy farm and we grew up around dairy farms. And this is like a job for everybody, something we can do at home. I'm a stay-at-home mom with 7 kids that I'm homeschooling. Like, this is perfect. So we started looking then for an old farmhouse. We thought, oh, we'll have an old farm, like an abandoned farm kind of thing, right? So we just kept looking in Eastern Washington, and then we ended up moving over here and we started looking here. Like there's all kinds of farms with all these buildings, right? But my husband does excavating. He doesn't do electrical and all that stuff. So as we looked at different places and different properties, we would eliminate them because they were so much work. Like we have to plug every hole in that barn. We have to insulate that whole barn. We have to make kennels in there. Like it didn't.
The money counter's just gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wing, wing, wing. We had these friends who had a house for sale on the Hannigan. They wanted us to come and look at it. I didn't realize which house it was. And I totally knew it once we got there. And I was like, we cannot afford this. Why are we even here? What are we doing, husband? And so we looked at the house, beautiful, nice house, had this huge shop. I don't know, 6 months later or something like that. I was like, we need to buy that place. It already has an office in the shop. It's perfect. We don't have to do any electrical, nothing. It's all set up and it has a house big enough for all of us. That kind of started it rolling. So I'm the people person. Sydney.
I can't tell.
Yeah.
It's not evident,
I love people. And Sydney loves the dogs. So Sydney she wants to be in the back. I wanted to be in front. And I mean, we swapped back and forth, but she learned the dog business. So here's how we let them out. Here's how much time they need out, all that, worrying about the welfare of the dogs. And I'm in the front starting out with a cell phone, all the kids in the car, all the calls are coming to my phone. I'm in the grocery store, like, hello, Rover, stay over.
Yeah.
Sure, I can get that,
like on a napkin.
Yes, wherever I was.
On your hand or whatever. Yeah.
And then it grew really fast. And then people would see me somewhere and they're like, who's taking care of my dog? It was just me. I was the face of the business for a long time. And when you're living on the property, it's like a farm. Like every time a customer came in, I'm running down to the kennel to take care of the customer.
It's like a dog wellness farm.
Oh yeah. And it's everything dog,
Mhm.
it's their food, it's their medications, it's their teeth brushing. So we also had all these kids. So our first year in business, we got to the end, our accountant looks at our books and they're like, how can you have no payroll? And I'm like, we got kids.
Yeah.
Like, we're all working. And
Yeah.
she's like, you can't do that. And I'm like, everybody works. This is how our family makes our money. But Ken was still excavating. So we could live off of that as we were building our business. So though it was a whole family affair, we sat at the kitchen table with a PR lady and chose our name. We had a whole list and we just kind of went through them all. And the interesting thing was we went to get roverstayover.com, and rover.com had just gotten it. So rover.com is Microsoft people with $12 million they invested or something. And here's us, like we have no money.
Yeah.
We have all these little kids. We're just have this, it wasn't, I don't know that it was a dream. It was a goal. And I'm not one that like writes down, and I write things down and check them off. I love that. But this was like, we couldn't deny it. Like we had to do it. It was going. Well, it was just so needed. We wanted to do it better because the old kenneling was, we left our little dog at that beautiful kennel and they put her in a kennel. It was indoor, outdoor, and it was very comfortable, I'm sure, but she never got held. She never got walked. She never hardly had human interaction the whole time. And I couldn't stand it. Like we loved our dog and people love their dogs and they need human interaction all the time and dog friends. And, it's different. It used to be like you left your dog and you just ripped a bag of dog food open and set it in the garage. And your dog's fine. Yeah. Like neighbor comes once a day and lets him out in the yard or something like that. But now, the dogs are in the house. It's a whole different world. And when they drop off their dog to be cared for by us, we want to care for that dog. We want to look Walter in the face and say, dude, did you have a good day? Like my girls know who his friends are, what his preferences are.
I don't even know who his friends. I don't even know who his friends are. Yeah.
They would know that.
I think everybody is his friend.
Probably everybody
mind,
is his friend. Yeah. And they care about the individual dogs. So we hire people who love dogs. And it's super interesting because when you're, dog people, right? Like, like they're a dog person, and because they talk to your dog before they talk to you most of the time. And we know our customers by their dogs. Yeah. You bring Walter in and I'd be like, oh yeah, I know him, but I know your dog.
I know Walter, but I know Walter.
Yeah. But we spend a lot of time with him. So when they're boarding, we're their mom. We're there at 5:45 in the morning and all the dogs go out. Everybody's got to go potty, right? Everybody's like, woo, we gotta go, Yep. So they're all out, mostly one at a time. And we have somebody out by the field gates and somebody letting out. And it's just
like
wild.
A herd of cattle.
Yeah. It's so fun. And then it's feeding round. So we set up the night before. We have carts that have everybody brings their own food because we don't want to upset tummies. So we don't want to change their food. We want it as homey as possible. We let people take blankets, but that kind of bites us sometimes because then we lose them in the laundry or a neighbor pulls it through a fence and somebody's like, that was my grandma's quilt she made me from 1949. And we're like,
looked like a quilt to me. Yeah. Sorry,
you're not getting that back. So we do laundry, dishes. So here's the funny part for me is I'm in the house taking care of 7 kids, doing laundry, dishes.
Can we just touch on that for a minute? You're running a huge business.
Yeah, it's a busy business.
Your husband's working full time, especially when you first started, and you have a whole group of kids.
So 5 girls and 2 boys. Okay. So the 2 older girls they were already grown and flown by the time we were at Rover. So we had the younger 5. They all did everything. They did front desk. Nice. They did the the phone rang in the kennel and in the house. Wherever I was, I could answer the phone because I was really front desk. They were the pooper scoopers when they were little. They were the dishwasher unloaders. They were there's so much to do, and there's yard work. It's the whole package. When you pull in the yard, you want to see a nice yard and you want to know, okay, I'm confident because this place is clean.
Mm-hmm.
If it's clean out here, it's probably clean in there. And it is. And it was a lot with raising 7 kids. And Ken has his own excavating company now. So he does that. He's like, can you help me a little bit? No.
Nope. Sorry, man.
Pretty much maxed out, dude. I can only do so much. But, my kids one year went to school at a little Christian school that had a bus. And I was like, this is perfect. They can get delivered right to the house. Well, no, they were delivered to High Notes Corner. And then I had to be there to meet the bus.
Just nonstop logistics.
One time my PR lady had to pick them up. And one time my trainer had to pick them up because I'm with a customer, and they would get to school late because I'm with a customer. Like somebody just dropped off and sorry, the kids are late again, but I had a customer. It was a lot making it all work, but people are super understanding and we have great customers, and we didn't have employees for a long time. Then it was like, I got to have a break. And so then you have to replicate yourself in the kennel. This is how we clean. So in the morning after we do first out, then we do meals, then we do medications, and you have to have a checklist. You have to be on it. And then we go through and do a 5-point wellness check. Are the eyes bright? Did they go out? Did they get up and run outside? Just making sure, checking the paws. Then everybody has to go out again. And during that out, every kennel, the bed gets sanitized. Our kennels, they're able to see out because dogs are social.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to be stuck in a 3-sided.
Space,
yeah. So they can see out, they can see all their friends, and they can see the girls. So, and we can see them. And so it's not like dark, back room kind of thing. It's bright and open, and you can who's barking? Oh, buddy, you need to go out.
Yep.
Out you go. So we have 4 quadrants. One is the office, and then one is daycare.
Mm-hmm.
And then the back 2 are boarding. And so we are interacting with those dogs all day long. So after they're clean, that's their long out, and then back they come in. And then all the daycare dogs, premium dogs, go out. They've had their temperament test. And so they go out with the groups, the daycare groups out in the yards. And we have little shelters out there and little heaters, and our girls stand out there, rain, shine.
Oh, I've seen it. Yeah.
Yeah, they are troopers, but they love the dogs. They're sopping wet because the dogs are jumping on them. But the dogs have toys out there, and they're those what do you call those? Reel things, they're up on those, and they're in the swimming pools in the summer, and they're just chasing and having a good old time. So funny, so fun to watch. And we try to keep our groups under 15 dogs per person. We know what we're getting, and we have in our notes Walter likes Fred, and he has his little list of friends, or he has.
And he got a scorecard too when he was a puppy.
Yes.
And he got in trouble for humping.
Yeah,
regularly. We got a scorecard back, and it was he did great. He did great. He did great. He opened the gate and then humped 3 dogs, and I was like, wow. Not my kid.
People love report cards.
Yeah, that was hilarious. By the way,
I bet you were dying laughing.
Yeah.
And when I read the report cards, I think they're so cute. I can hardly take. Dogs act differently at the kennel than they do. Some people are like, I don't know that he'll be able to play with other dogs, or he's not very good with people. But when they're not home protecting you at your home, this is my turf and stuff. A lot of times they're a completely different dog. I'm not a trainer. We call ourselves grandma's house, because when the dogs come to us, we're not there to correct a behavior. I mean, if it's something easy we can fix, we do. But they're there to have a good time. We're not going to get after your dog. We're not mom and dad. We're grandma's house. Yeah. We just want you to be happy and content for a few days while your parents are gone. Yeah. And we don't want to stress you out. And so if that means a few extra outs or some treats or, whatever we can do. And the girls are really good at watching that too. Oh, this little dog looks like she's kind of depressed or whatever. And pretty soon I'm like, you've been carrying that dog around for a while. And they're like, yeah, she just looked like
Need
she
some
wasn't
time.
happy, So I love that because that's the individual care. And people call, we tell them all the time, just call us. You're in Hawaii laying on the beach and you're like, I wonder how my dog is, like I miss him. Like, call us. We're gonna say,
he's pulling the plow in the field right now. We're putting him to work.
He needs
he
to
got
work.
into it. Yeah.
So a 5-minute phone call from Europe, we get calls from all over Europe, all over, right? Or emails like, how's my dog doing? Because they're part of your family and you just had to leave them at a kennel and you've never had to do that before. And we 5-second, hey, we need a wellness check on Walter.
Yeah.
Okay, he ate all his breakfast. He's outside with his friends right now. It's not every day isn't all roses. There are some rough days. We get kennel cough going through.
And it just kind of just flies through.
So kennel cough does not start at our kennel because we don't take dogs that are sick. But somebody comes in with kennel cough, canine cough, and spreads it. It's through the air and it spreads like, I don't know, 300 yards or some crazy thing.
That's pretty crazy.
We let the people choose if they want to do the vaccination, but the kennel cough vaccination doesn't work. It's like a kid going to daycare and getting a cold. And
I know what that's like now.
Yeah. Now you do.
We've just been like some form of like sniffs or coughs or whatever for
it just happens.
Eternity.
And it's not serious unless they're very young dogs or very old dogs.
Right.
So it used to be like people hid the fact that, oh yeah, we're having canine cough go through. We don't hide it. Yeah. First sign of it, we put signs up in the office. Your dog may get kennel cough. It's going around. We put it out on our social media. We do everything we can to warn you because it sounds like they have a hairball. So when you hear that, and then they'll sort of either throw up or something or foamy stuff comes out and you're like, oh my gosh, she swallowed a bone. We got to go to the vet. And we're like, no, call us. Because if it's kennel cough, the vet really can't do a whole lot for you.
Yep.
Unless it's just cold. Like just let it run its course. They can't come in for 14 days from the first symptoms, because we don't want them to spread it. But it's nothing serious. It sounds scary. It's not pretty really normal. Scary. Yeah. It's just a kid with a cough. But we're the new kind of kenneling. We feel like the dogs used to, like I was saying, my little bulldog is stuck in a kennel, gets out once or twice a day maybe, but it's an indoor-outdoor kennel, but not out into a field. And we're like, holy cow, after 3, 4, 5 days of that, those poor dogs, even one day, can you imagine Walter just tied up in a kennel? So we let him run. Because when we go out at night, Sydney will sometimes video and everybody's asleep on their beds. Like it's perfectly quiet and we're like, night everybody, because they're worn out. They've had a great day. They've had their food and their medications, and we turn the light off and we have cameras so we can watch if there's a dog that we're concerned about or something. I lived in the house at Rover Stayover for 10 years. So I go from the chaos of 7 children to the chaos of starting a kennel. And I'm doing laundry and dishes, and then I go out to the kennel and do laundry and dishes, and I'm constantly on the phone. People are like, I never saw anybody on the phone. Well, if my kids are calling me and my customers are calling me, my day's there's 8 hours.
It's gone.
Right there. Because you're coaching your kids as they get older, right? My kids I think my youngest Ransom was 5 or 7 or so when we started the kennel, and I was homeschooling, and there's a customer. I'd go running down to the kennel, and then I'd be like, has anybody seen Ransom? Anybody know where Ransom went? Long gone, out in the cornfield, dinking around. And I'm like, okay, I can't do that. I ended up sending them to school. Ransom started in 5th grade. And so that freed me up quite a bit, but there's still got 4 or 5 kids in the house.
Yep. One at a time.
Yeah. One at a time. And the kids are great, great kids, good work, hard workers. Yeah. Most of them were burned out on that because it's like a farmer. How many farmers' kids want to be farmers because they've lived it. We have to dig ourselves out. Like if we get a snowstorm, we're out there before all the employees come because you don't want it trounced on and you can't open doors and everything's frozen. And We get out there early morning. I got up at 5 a.m. for years, but I had never really slept before that because I had 7 kids,
So
right?
it's just an easy transition.
It was super, it didn't even matter, but it really was a great fit for my personality because I'm a homebody. I don't really like to leave the house that much. Like, I love people, but now people came to me. I met this whole nother
the group of people
that I would have never,
and dog people.
and their dog
Yeah.
people. And you mentioned something that is super important and that people don't think about when they get a dog. That dog needs a lot of exercise. This is
Tons.
a 15, 20-year commitment.
Yes.
We just lost our Chow Chow, who was 15, Edgar. And you need to think through that before
you get a dog, yeah.
And you need to get the right application. You know, we see these older people get a lab. Labs don't settle down for years.
Like, no, man.
Yeah, but
they asked us
trying
so
to
many
walk
questions. I didn't realize I was going to get grilled.
Serious.
Like, how much do you exercise? How much are you outdoors? And I'm like, well, we hike once a week. We're really active. We run, we bike. And they're like, how many times a day do you bike? And I'm like, what? And then I got Walt and I was like, oh my God. Okay, cool. We'd go mountain bike and then we'd take him to Rover and then he'd go swim in the lake and then he'd drop a toy in front of me. I'm like, dude, we're done.
Yeah.
I'm done. You're done. You're going to sleep. But
so you get the application because a little old lady should probably get a low maintenance, sweet little dog that she can take in the car with her and stuff, not a lab. They don't have the energy for it. So many of these dogs need daycare. Daycare is a huge asset for people, which you have witnessed. So even if you can't do 5 days a week and you're working 5 days a week, we're open for daycare 7 days a week because now we have skiers who want to go on Saturdays and Sundays up skiing and they need daycare on those days. The brilliance of daycare is that you can bring them one day. They're sleeping in the back seat.
Oh, yeah.
On their way out of the driveway. Like, the people are like sending pictures like, look, and their dog is like, in the back
Walt
seat.
puts his face on the door handle. So I've got my daughter in the left back seat, and then I've got in her baby seat, car seat, and then I've got Walter, who gets excited to see her, and then he goes,
yeah.
And he's just done, draped on the window.
Yeah.
I'm like, all right.
So sweet.
See you later, man.
So the next day, they're usually still worn out. Most dogs are so worn out from that first day. And we'll get phone calls like, did you guys drug my dog?
Yeah.
And we're like, no, he played hard. Like, he's not even waking up for dinner. And we're like, it's okay. He'll eat his breakfast. Just, he's worn out. And we have worked hard on figuring out the best play surface. Eventually we'll probably do fake grass, which is amazing, turf, but it's also amazingly expensive.
Yep.
So we have pea gravel, which we can go through at night and spray and sanitize outside. We put grass in for years. We spent a 4th of July. Like, it was hotter than heck here. And when we did a trailer of sod in the new backfields, put all new fields in, and we worked all day. I was so worn out because you're on your knees too, crawling and pulling seams together and stuff. And all the kids and our nephew, and it was just littered with Gatorade and water bottles. And we got done. It was beautiful. And the dogs just wrecked it.
Day one.
I mean, and we let it, like, we tried to leave it and let it root in and stuff, but every time we've done it, it's just totally worthless. So we bring in the pea gravel, and it also is kind of like sand, right? So it makes the dogs are working harder while they're working or while they're playing. And but it's cleaner, it's better, and it's the base layer once we do put the turf on. We have lots of ideas yet that we want to do. We're always, like, we go to conferences and stuff, and we learn more about cleaning systems inside that are easier. And, we mop, you have to think of everything like a child. You don't want your dogs walking on bleach.
Right.
You like all these things. So all our cleaners are hydrogen peroxide, and stuff that if they licked it or somebody sprayed it and it oversprayed into a
It's not the end of the world.
bottle,
Fine.
like doesn't even hurt the dog. Like all those kind of things you work your way through as you're learning and growing.
Can we jump into that for a second? Because one thing that I'm picking up on is you've built a really, really unique business and really, really just strong business. It's doing, when it comes to entrepreneurship, being a business owner, it's a dream, and there's so many different ways of approaching it.
Yep.
And some people, they're like, I went to college, I got MBA, I knew exactly what I was going to do. I had a mentor, I had this, but most people, including myself, kind of bootstrapped it, right? And you figure it out. Can talk to me a little bit more about street smarts versus, book smarts, or how did you build this business? What was your background? Or was it just, this is our goal, this is our thing we're going to do as a family, we're going to figure it out? Tell me more about that.
So it was
mindset.
kind of a combination. Yeah. So Ken and I have never gone to college. We've taken specific classes when we needed to.
I dropped out, by the way.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
And we have not encouraged our kids to go to college. We're like, we can't pay for it. Like we can't pay for the 4 years of college for 7 children, right?
That's a big bill.
That's a big bill, but they're all hard workers. And our thing always is like, if you're a hard worker, anybody will take you because there's not a lot of hard workers in the world. The starting of the business. So we had taken over an excavating business in Eastern Washington and figured it out. Like I was the dispatcher. I had to be up and shower before 6 o'clock when the phone started ringing and the kids were getting up. I only had 3 at that time. And
just 3.
That's
easy. That sounds lots of respect for that. I'm like, oh my God, 1 kid. And they're like, Did you get the joke? Like you're starting a baseball team?
All the time.
Yeah.
And every old man would say to me, I'm walking pregnant in the grocery store with 4 or 5 little kids behind me, quacking like a duck because that's how you feel. And somebody say, what causes that? And I'd say, yep. And I'm going to get me an ugly husband next time.
Yeah. There you go. Nice.
It sort of takes the awkwardness out of it. Yeah. And my shy husband is like, rat, like
I'm going to go to the 5. Do we need milk? I'm going to get milk right now. I'm leaving.
We have great stories. So, he's been very patient with this whole thing. He honestly didn't know what he was getting when he married me. Like we had dated almost 2 years, but he's quiet, the solid kind of guy. And I'm like, whoa, let's do this. And he's like, Charmae, we don't have money. We don't know what we're doing. But I'm kind of a researcher. So I started looking into it. I'm like, this is how we can do it. These are the size of the kennels we need. This is how other people do it. I plugged into some stuff so I could figure it out before we started because it's a big risk. The part I didn't get right was the permitting. And that has been the hardest part. And that is why people don't do it.
Talk to me about that. When you say permitting, it's obviously taking a residential property and then converting it or getting a conditional use for a commercial business.
So we personally changed the Whatcom County code.
Oh,
so
do tell.
Yeah,
very interesting.
That was very, very interesting and very hard.
Hey everyone, it's Leo. The Building Bellingham podcast is one of our team's community projects, and I want to introduce you to the other. Live Bellingham Now is a community platform showcasing up-and-coming businesses, local nonprofits, and events happening in town. You can get all of the updates on Facebook and Instagram. All right, back to the show.
And we had to take it to the hearing examiner, we didn't get a lot of cooperation from the planning department when we started this, or a lot of understanding. I didn't speak legalese of what it was. I would go into the planning department and ask questions and I would never get an email back. Can you write that down for me so I can remember? Nobody ever did. So there was a lot of miscommunications and stuff. So anyway, we end up in the ag zone is where we started our kennel. Dogs were not allowed in the ag zone. That made no sense. Because they're animals. So it's small animal husbandry in the ag zone. Animals should be with animals and they're noisy.
Right.
But they were only allowed in the rural zone.
Interesting.
In houses. So who is going to agree in a neighborhood like, yeah, let's put a dog kennel in our neighborhood. Nobody wants that.
Turn it down. It's 10 o'clock at night, dogs.
Yeah. And so we changed, and it was not easy, but the county council, when we went to the county council for final approval, our proposal was so good and made so much sense that we got a unanimous vote from the county council. Our attorney cried. Like, that never happens.
Wow.
But it makes sense.
I didn't know attorneys do cry.
Yeah.
No, just not
she's lovely
at the office. They cry like everybody else. We go home, we go, oh.
Yeah. And it was such a surprise that it went that way, because it had been such a hard battle to get all the permitting in place and everything else. The county code now is on 5 acres or less. You can have a commercial dog kennel, because anything over 4 dogs is a commercial kennel. And you have to tell your neighbors, like, I'm going to apply for a commercial kennel, and everybody comes out of the woodwork and hates you because they don't want a dog kennel anywhere near them. We happen to, by God's grace, find this piece of property on the Hannigan that has 500 acres around it with no houses.
That's helpful.
But across the Hannigan from us is a rural zone.
Right.
But we were in the ag zone, but we weren't allowed in the ag zone. So we kind of went backwards at it when we figured out what we had done wrong.
This is after you purchased it.
Yeah.
Oh.
We rented it for 3 years before we bought it, because we didn't have any money. We had all these little kids. Yeah. And we wanted to make sure that everything was good. And we went through a really rough patch, but our customers were so great. And we made it through the rough patch. We had to do everything. We had to stripe our parking lot. It was a CUP. We had to put in bioretention ponds, noise attenuation. Like, they took us.
The ringer.
Oh my gosh. What went through the ringer.
I'm really curious, because there was this
7
gap.
years it took us
7
to get
years?
permitted. 7 years.
Okay. So
just so you know that.
7 years. And in that process, there was this gap between larger animals and dogs. And what was the argument or the presentation that landed? Tell me more about, like, what was the reasoning that you gave that they all said, oh?
The main reason is because nobody wants them in neighborhoods. And we have, is that what you meant?
Yes, exactly.
And because we have all these farms that are turning from dairy farms into berry farms. They don't need those buildings in that house.
Small dairy, when large dairy does the majority, it puts a lot of the small dairy out of business. And
so the little guys,
but berry still does well.
But berries, they're usually bought by berry farmers.
Interesting. Okay.
And now and then they'll break off the house and barns with 5 acres.
Right.
And then that gives people a chance to get, to have another business there, a viable business on their farm. They can raise heifers, or, there's 100 different things, but
not dog. It wasn't dog, but dogs were not in there. It wasn't
dogs.
Yeah.
And it is still, there's another kennel that started in Whatcom County, and they had their house, they had to build a house. They had a piece of property. They had their house built, permitted, everything else, and they still hadn't done one thing on the kennel. It took 4 years just to permit a kennel. That is what keeps other people from doing it, because it's so hard and it's so intense and it takes so much money. We couldn't have done it if we didn't have the kennel to help finance
producing, doing its job.
The attorney fees were outrageous. And then if you do it, so there are, at the time we started Rover, there were about 14 pretty good sized kennels in the county. Only one was permitted. Only one. The county knew about all of them, but you know what? Their neighbors aren't complaining. They're making a living for their family. They're doing a good job taking care of the dogs. Like, just let them do their thing.
Right.
We didn't even care. We're just going to do us. We're just going to take care of us and our permitting problems, and make it through. And we did. And so most kennels are completely unpermitted. And the only reason they go after them, the only reason they go after them is if there's complaints. So we weren't going to be complaining. We felt like people who had a passion for that don't always have the finances and the time to get the permitting
Or the grit.
or the grit.
Grit's a big one.
It was eating an elephant. And thank goodness we had some really good people that helped us. I mean, you have to have a fire truck turnaround. You
Right.
have to have, there's so many rules.
That wasn't just for my truck.
No.
Darn it. I thought it was the F-150.
But it is a
turnaround.
big, and the garbage man.
Sure. Yeah, the garbage man.
But it's a commercial kennel. So it's a whole, if you're under 4 dogs, you're fine. But sometimes people have 4 dogs of their own,
Right.
But there are little kennels all scattered throughout the county, and there are other kennels that are bigger they do a good job. Of course, we feel like we're the best because we've got our heart and soul invested in taking good care of your dog and taking good care of, and then you get, it just takes one bad review or one disgruntled employee.
Tell me about that. Tell me about,
oh my goodness. The employee thing is huge, right?
Employee thing, but also like so much of, I mean, sometimes, you try to keep the service as consistent as possible, and you have all these checklists and systems, and sometimes things just don't line up and mistakes are made. That happens with every business.
Yeah.
When that happens, like someone has a lot of the times it's a misperception, misconception of the service, or they weren't clear on they didn't read the services or whatever it is. Tell me about those bad reviews. Tell me about the good reviews. Tell me, like, how does that affect you as a business owner, or the feedback from employees?
It really is so hurtful if somebody posts a bad thing on, whatever forum there is. And we get them. We try to avoid that. We have a service that texts our people like 4 hours after they check out, like, was everything okay? How was your, would you give us a thumbs up or thumbs down? And if we get a thumbs down, we call that person like, hey, what was it? Well, I just thought my dog lost a bunch of weight while he was there. Well, what does he normally do at your house during the day? Like, well, he goes out 3 times. Well, he was with a group of dogs for 7 days while you were gone playing. Like, a lot of things we get is like their paws are sore because they're playing. Like,
we just put ointment on Walt's.
Yeah.
If he's playing hard, it's like, okay, cool.
We have this, special stuff we put on, and we do that. We try to do that to all the new dogs because we know they don't normally play on pea gravel. So their feet are going to be, and it's wet, and their feet are pliable, and they're running, and now they've got sore paws. And so we try to always monitor that situation for daycare dogs, especially because they're putting the most time out in the fields, but all of the dogs, because we don't want to send them home with sore paws, and we want them playing the next day. So, okay, you're going to have to go up because you've been out here for 2 hours running like a crazy nut, and you're going to have sore paws. So then put them up in they have, most of the kennels are like either 4 feet wide or 5 feet wide, and they're 5 feet square, or they're 7 feet long.
Pretty good size.
And they have everybody has a Karunda bed, which gets them up off the floor because they're cement floors, which is, they're pooping and peeing sometimes. So you have to have floors you can clean. But the Karunda beds are like a hammock. So, and we put blankets on them in the wintertime, so they're warm. All the rooms are heated. It's not luxurious as in we would think like luxurious, but for a dog, we say, hey, they're at camp. They got a warm bed. They get meals if they have lunch. A lot of dogs come with lunch too. So we're feeding 3 meals a day. They're out all day long. Like, they're having a good time. And when we bring people back to, do tours and stuff, it's loud. And they're like, oh, this is just way too loud. And we're like, well, stranger danger, right? Like, you're a new person.
You're the problem.
Yeah. We're taking you back into their thing. And they're like, woo, let's go, but really, it's not always like that. Like, it's surprisingly quiet often. We try really hard to make those personal connections because these are long-term. We get your dog as a puppy. We grow that dog up. We try to make that dog a social butterfly who loves kids, dogs, all our people. I just want to talk quick about the employee thing. So we have about 50 employees between the 2 kennels. So it's quite a process. And I've had people say to me before, like, you sure seem like you go through a lot of people. And that is true at times. Sometimes we have people, this is going to be their career path. They want to work at a dog kennel, they want to be in daycare, and we move them up through, like, when we get people in, and I trained all summer. I worked all summer long, every weekend. I'd have a couple days off during the week, but I was training people. So here's how we clean. Here's how we care for the dogs. Here's what we say to our customers, like, just the whole bit, right? And
it takes a lot.
It's a lot of energy. It's a lot of singing Dolly Parton in the back, and the just at the top of my lungs, and the dogs are like, she's crazy, and we're like, yeah,
we like her. She's cool. Yeah, she's crazy,
but we're having
cool.
a good
Yeah,
time, And so but our goal with our employees, because we have high school girls, high school kids, a lot of high school kids, like after school, we have a few that come in and blah, blah, blah. College kids, kids that it's their career path. If we can get you to work on time, not high, love the dogs, you get a paycheck. Like, if we can train these kids to be good workers, which I feel like is part of the coaching of my own kids. And I'm still, I'm 58 years old, but I'm still in that coaching stage because my youngest just left the house. So I've had kids in the house for 35 years. So now I have that connection with these young people that are coming into my business, who I get to train and love. And everybody has problems. All these kids, they're coming from broken homes, sad situations, not all of them, but a lot of them. And that's my passion. Like, I love the dogs, and I didn't realize how much I love dogs until I got in this business, because I just was a people lover. And so now I get to influence the whole next generation of hard workers, showing up on time, being respectful, how to call out, like all those important things that are going to make them great people in the future. And we didn't realize how big that was going to be in our business. And we love our people. And for you to get fired at our business is hard.
Yeah.
Like, we want to bring you along, develop you as a person, and love you as a person, and care for you. And, hey, how are you feeling today? How are you? Do you need another day off? Like, we're a little business, and COVID was brutal, because we were trying not to pass the bug to each other. And like, oh, my boyfriend's girlfriend's aunt had it, and I was there for an hour, and I can't come to work today. And we're like, okay, like, we don't have enough people. I worked, when we came out of COVID, we didn't have enough workers. I worked 40 days with not one day off, and they were 14-hour days. When you work at the kennel, you do minimum a mile an hour on cement. Like, I change my shoes like 3 times a day because my feet are so tired. And there were days I would get in the house and sit down, and I couldn't get up for 2 hours. Like, my feet cannot hold me yet. Like, okay, in a minute, I'm gonna get up. Call for pizza, guys, because I'm not cooking tonight.
Not happening.
No, it's not happening. It has been, besides raising 7 kids, the hardest, best years. Like, love my little business, love the employees over the years, keep in contact with them on Facebook, and all those things. They go on to be vets and moms and dads. We've had some really good guys come through too, but it's mostly it's sort of a mothering kind of situation, because but you walk through with the girls, and they're like, that little dog likes scratch behind the ears, and that big dog loves to walk between your legs. And they know them, they love them, they care about them. And I think that's the difference. I think that's the difference in the care, and just having them out as much as they can, not having them isolated. And the cleanliness of the facility is just paramount to running a good business. And I wasn't a business person. I was a mom. And I graduated high school. I got married at 19. I've been married for 38, 39 years, something like that. And we grew up together. We had an excavating company, but I wasn't the business person. And so I would say to my girls, like, I'm just a mom. So I'm learning too.
Being a mom's a big deal.
Being a mom is a big deal.
Yeah.
But being a business person is a big deal too. And it was a lot of similarities, but a lot of very much similarities, I would say. But I'd never fired someone and I'd never hired someone. And you kind of have to find your way.
Mhm.
Like, you can read about it. And finally, I came to the conclusion in firing people, and this is from Bob, the guy who owned Faith Life.
Yep.
He wrote a book called Fire Someone Today. And he says, release them to do what they're good at. Like, if they're not good at being a kennel attendant or a daycare attendant or a front desk person, and you see it, just release them. And I never argue with that person. Like, I'm just like, it's not working out.
Yeah.
It's just not working out.
And it might be also a piece to it is, and just to clarify from my perspective,
Yeah.
outside looking in, there are some industries where there are like, let's say there's a core amount of spots in
Yeah.
your business where there's space for growth.
Yes.
And then there's a lot of positions there that are necessary,
Yeah.
really important, but also maybe a stepping stone for someone to go somewhere else.
Yes.
And so someone else looking in goes, oh yeah, you have all this turnover. And you're like, well, but this position
Yes.
is a stepping stone.
Yep.
And this is the role that I'm trying to be in this person's life.
Yep.
And if they go on to something else for whatever reason,
Yeah.
that's okay. This is what this is supposed
They're just
to be.
a better person.
Yes.
You know, we're making them better people, better employees. And they graduate high school and go to college. We lose that person. They graduate college and move away to their next real job.
Right.
We lose that person. And it's a young people's business.
Mm-hmm. Notice that. Yeah.
It's so many miles in a day. It's so much bending and wet and, wet dog smell and all that stuff. I'm never going to be a bather, by the way. That is a tough job, and a groomer. Like, I don't like that wet, hairy
poofy
feeling. Yeah.
Hair flying everywhere.
I mean, I have walked past a groom room and it is literally like a snow is happening inside there. Like, I love a good smelling dog, but don't underestimate how hard those groomers work and how much, like, they have to wear a mask just to keep the hair out of their mouth and nose so they can breathe in some of those situations. Besides it, not all dogs like their feet touched or want their anal glands expressed, or you
had to call out Walt. That dude and his anal glands, disgusting. Yeah. Hey, I've got to shift off the anal gland subject really quickly. No, I have a philosophical question for you.
Yes.
Being in the business of dogs, do you like dogs better than people sometimes, or more than often?
They're less back talk.
Dogs?
Yes.
Yeah, that's true.
They love you unconditionally. My kids and my employees give me a lot of crap. They tease me so bad, and I love it. And they probably do that because I take it well and pitch it back pretty good. The dogs never do that to me, though. They just love me, and I just love them. So it's like, it's a great little business. Been very fun, very fulfilling.
For an entrepreneur or someone that is deciding what they want to do, maybe they haven't finished high school yet, maybe one of these young people that comes into your business that has a good idea, or doesn't have a MBA, or I mean, I'm just describing us in this space here. What's some of your advice that you would pass along to somebody?
I think, when we hire people, they come in and they're like, I just want to play with dogs. And we're like, 80% of what you're going to do is cleaning. Just picking up poop in the fields, cleaning up, kennels, cleaning water buckets twice a day. Those have to all be washed. Like, it's a lot of work. And if you don't want to work that hard and you don't want to be on your feet that long, like, we have people who come in and they're just sitting on the bed with the dog, and we're like, hey, but they got to be fed now. And they got to be out. Has that dog been out? Like, we love it that you're loving on that dog, but we also have a schedule to keep and to get everybody out, to make everybody comfortable, and to get you home in time for dinner. Like you gotta keep
Kind
moving.
of a clip to it. You have to have a clip, and you have to have a checklist. I'm talking to Tiffany here because she is the logistics queen here.
We have,
me and Coop just follow what she says to do. And Chris and Tim, they tell us what to do. We follow.
And I am good at doing the work. I'm not always good at writing down how we do it. So Sydney has been great at the logistics of things, and that will be passing it on right to the next generation. And so we have to start thinking about that, because I don't really want to put on 14 miles a day anymore. Like I get tired.
Maybe on a beach in Hawaii or something.
We've watched all the travel trailers leaving on the Hannigan. Everybody's going on vacation. I'm like,
have fun on your vacation.
Wish I could go.
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, I'm at the front desk. Like, where are you going? Oh, we're going to Australia for 2 weeks. Oh, we're going to Hawaii. We hear the most fabulous vacation stories, and they come home and I want to know all about it. Like, but I love my customers too. Like, how was your daughter's wedding this weekend? How is your son doing, who's in the hospital in San Francisco? How is your, I'm sorry to hear about your dad. Like, I love my people because I see them all the time. And when I was
community,
it's my group. They text me, they call me. I was the person, but we grew so much. You can't be the only person. And I had to learn to work on my business and not in my business. And that was a really hard transition, because that is letting go. They're not going to write the email like I would do it, and they're not going to handle the situation exactly how I would do it, but they're doing a good job. And in some things they're doing a way better job. And that's a huge thing, is to hire people better than yourself. Like, I don't do any accounting. I'm going to let the accountant do that, because I'm not a numbers person. That's not my forte. And I'm not going to do the grooming, because I'm not going to be good at that. And I'm not even good in daycare. Like, I get nervous in daycare in a whole group of dogs. I'm like, did he just growl? Like, like I didn't grow up in an era where we had daycare. Our dog fought with our neighbor's dog, and we were all on 5 acres, and it was
scary. There wasn't any money involved, was there? There wasn't that type of dog fight?
No, none of that.
Okay.
But it like, I think it scarred me. Our neighbor dog and our dog got in a fight on the corner of the property, and my neighbor man yells, get a bucket of water. And I get a bucket of water and threw it and hit him and didn't even touch the dog.
Nice.
And he's never let me forget that. But I do great in the kennel, because I have a schedule, I have a checklist, I can do that too. And now I have front desk people who, they run those phone systems. The phone systems are different. The booking system is I used to do all that. And then
it's easier now. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. You do it all online. It's a whole different, people don't want to really talk to people much. They're like, I don't need to talk to you for 30 minutes to get my dog set up for daycare. I can just put it all in.
Yeah.
Yep. We can check
put it in the cloud.
Yeah. It's all, and it got a little too much for me. And I didn't need to put in that many hours anymore. I didn't really want to. So I have really worked. And then we bought a second location. So then we were starting there. So I love a good challenge, and I have to have my creative juices flowing. And that this has been a great outlet for the last 12 years to, so we'll see what the future holds. But, COVID was a challenge. We thought we were, the pet industry was invincible, like just climbing. Everybody had dogs. And then COVID happened, and all we got was cancellations for weeks. We were an essential service, so that worked out good for us. But we, because everybody who had to go to work had to have a place to bring their dogs yet. And because it's, your dog is barking in the condo while you're at work, and your neighbors are calling animal control. Like, you got to think of those things, when you buy a dog, you have to think of those things too. But COVID just threw such a wrench in everything and scared the crap out of us because we were like, oh my gosh,
It's
now,
the end.
yeah, like what is going to happen here? And we came back strong, but then we had employee shortage, and now minimum wage keeps going up. We try to keep them above that, but that keeps, so then you have to raise your prices, and it just, every time we have to raise prices, we just beat ourselves up so bad, put it off as long as possible. But it's a hard business.
A lot that goes into running a business, and
so
that
much
people don't see. It's a big commitment.
Yeah.
So I would the shameless plug is you need to go check out Rover. If you have a dog and are like, oh, my work schedule went, like, just it's simplified our life.
Yeah.
It's a quick pop out to Linden, like just south of Linden for us, because you guys are just south of Linden.
We're 8 minutes from Barkley Village, and Puget is by the airport.
Right.
3710 Williamson Way. So we're right there, which is super convenient. We only do daycare there. But the cool thing is we do daycare by the hour. So somebody just needs to go get groceries, like drop them off for an hour, let us wear them out. Or you can't leave them in the car in the summertime, and you can't leave them in your house or your apartment because they're a puppy. Just drop them off for 2 hours.
Yep.
Like, let us take care of them. We try to be everything dog. Like,
anybody that asks me, I'm like, they're like, where's your dog? And I'm like, in a field somewhere, running around, having a good time,
out on
eating.
The farm.
So I really appreciate you sharing your story with us here. And I love what you do. And it's so good to finally meet. I've seen you and we've talked in the office, but we've never connected the dots. And just really appreciate what you do. And thank you for sharing your story with us. And so thank you for coming on. This is season 5, episode 5, Charmae. Rover, stay over. Puget Hound, thank you for coming in.
Thanks, Leo.
Building Bellingham is a community podcast exploring leadership, challenges, failure, and mindset with entrepreneurs right here in Whatcom County, Washington. You can be the first to hear about upcoming guests by subscribing to the Building Bellingham Facebook or Instagram pages, as well as the Building Bellingham YouTube channel. This episode was produced and edited by Tiffany Holden. Our videography is done by Cooper Hansley. Community projects are by Taylor Beal. To learn more about the team behind the podcast and to download our media kit, check out our website at www.livebellinghamnow.com or search Cohen Group NW on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or LinkedIn. From the whole Building Bellingham podcast team, thank you for listening.